The whole business of being an artist is about the expression and generation of hope. I don't think you don't make things that have no, as it were, practical function if you don't feel that by inserting them into the world doesn't in some way change.
I see my work as sculpture because I think sculpture is when you deal with objects. You know, we start with objects as the point of reference. In my work, I think of the relationship between objects.
This is the body translated into those architectural masses, but then every cell in that architecturally described mass has been allowed to expand until they begin to invade each other's space. You know, for me, the whole thing is how are we reconciling, if you like, the world of objective empirical truth, the measurable, with the feelable.
I can't say it's always been a particularly happy relationship. I think there's an aspect of British sculpture that is born out of a very moral tradition to do with craft and to do with good and to do with the right, you know, the right way of making things. It's all very correct.
I kept looking at the landscape, and it occurred to me that the ravine where Porta de Lærkesen ended up was part of the original topology of the land. It hadn't been touched. Because of its topography and that it hadn't been artificially constructed, I thought it would be a good place to insert a work of mine. Then I had to figure out the scale of the work and how the work would function.
This work, Twilight, is a living sculpture in the sense that it's sensing everything around it within the architecture. You know, with it, I was very interested in taking, you know, something which is sculpture and trying to create a living system with it, and creating something which, you know, also strangely ironic because the sculpture is obviously of a phone, which is completely obsolete.
The object is the magnet that creates that experience, draws you in, and I think in many ways what I'm trying to do is really disperse that object, break it down, dislocate you within an object so that when you walk in, you focus on one object, but immediately you have to move to another, you have to move to another, so that you have choices. And in many ways, I think this is about the way you see. When you come into this room, you see a ladder, but it relates to the window, it relates to the building, it's very quick. You can't isolate an object. So I think, you know, a traditional idea of sculpture is that you have an isolated object.
There's a kind of parallax that occurs where the land foreshortens horizontally from right to left or left to right, depending on which way you're walking. And so I decided that I wanted to use the ravine as a way of dealing with having the people not only see the piece from below as you walk down the path, but also seeing it from the bridge as you cross the bridge. And what I wanted to happen was that when you stood in the middle of the bridge, the two plates would actually close all the way. So the piece functions as a swinging door or as a gate to the unfolding landscape and the sea beyond it.
And the communication that it has as a sculpture is influenced by the viewer. So the viewer, in a sense, is, in a very abstract way, is almost playing the work. It's responding to me as I stand here. It's responding to how far I am from it.
All sculpture that I'm interested in knows that death is the inevitable conclusion.
The monument, in a way, is a fallacy. You know, it's a pretense. And to me, maybe a lot of sculpture uses pretense in various guises. I mean, the bronze with the great hollow space in the middle, which is black, and we never see. It means that maybe the surface is actually more akin to painting than to this great serious subject of sculpture, you know. And so there are these constant fallacies and paradoxes about sculpture, which I'm absolutely intrigued in.